Okay. Now let's see, how many had 10:30 tea times here that we lost? I'm going to deviate a little bit here via a couple of the questions and try to make a bigger point here. And again, if I'm becoming too philosophical, I apologize. But it goes hand in hand, and I always get the same response. And I'm not trying to minimize the X's and O's, but I've been in it 25 years, and I can't remember the last time I really saw something new. It's cyclical. You know, it will go out of vogue for a little bit. The counter tray is a perfect example. Counter tray, counter O, whatever you call it, pulling the guard, the tackle. Joe Gibbs won a couple Super Bowls with it. Everybody's running, and it was super. Well, the defense has started to see it enough that they're now closing down with the stand backer, blowing that weak side backer through the weak side A gap and blowing the play up. It's not as good. Not many teams run it anymore. And it becomes less and less every year to the point where it becomes extinct. And I don't know the time sequence, but 4 or 5 years from now, someone's going to reinvent the counter tray. And it's going to be a revolutionary new play, and everybody's going to win with it again. So very few things are new. Where you can get the edge, and I believe this, and you all understand this because most of you are teachers. Even at my level, I consider myself a teacher. And I consider that probably my strength, that I'm a coach/teacher. And the methods with which you can teach is where there is now a revolution. The availability of videos. What's coming up now is a CD-ROM technology, where you are going to be able to take a subject like this, game plan, or third down, or red zone, or whatever, and on that CD-ROM is text of what we're talking about, with some schematics. And you will double-click the schematic, and it will show you 4 or 5 formation variations to it. And you'll click another thing on the CD-ROM that will have my mug come up and talk about it, or another one that will actually run the play from the schematic. And we're there. We are there. For those of you that doubt it, you may not have it, but walk over to the computer lab in your school, and I guarantee you the technology is there, and people like Bob Murray and the others that are developing it, it is getting there. It is getting there, and it's something you can use. I foresee very early the time, particularly college coaches that have limited time with their players, to be able to manufacture their own CD-ROM disc and tell the player who's got a laptop back in his dorm room with the CD-ROM that says, I can't spend an hour with you because it's against NCAA rules. Take this home and look at it. And there's the written test with the diagrams of the nickel package with a couple of examples and a couple key points you want to make. Tremendous teaching tool. Now, trying to conceptualize a little bit about focusing in where your game plan is going to be and how you can take an approach that better prepares your players. If this represents your entire offense for the year, when you want to develop an offensive game plan, someone asked, I'm not trying to hawk a tape here, but I did this subject, I spoke specifically about developing an offensive game plan in this very clinic in Chicago for Bob 2 years ago, and they have a tape on that if you'd like to get that tape and see the full presentation. Also, it's going to come out in book form in a couple of months from Sagamore, and you'll probably get some type of mailing on it that details a little bit more. And the reason I chose that subject is because I couldn't find anybody that wrote on it. They talked about offensive philosophy, but I wanted to write a book to put together concepts that we're talking about here. If you want to run the option, run the option. You want to run the run and shoot, run the run and shoot. I'm not going to dictate or I wouldn't even begin to presume to tell you that this offense is better than that offense. But regardless of the offense, the way you approach it, there can be some consistency to it. Here's an offense that you have to think on 3 levels: yearly, weekly, and game plan. Now, there's a yearly offense with the ratio of run to pass. Now, if you want to make it 3/4 run and a quarter pass, that's your business, what you want to run. You want to make it all pass, that's fine. But on a typical offense that wants to be balanced, you have a certain amount of run and a certain amount of pass that's going to be run in a year. And again, I'm telling you, that can be identified. The talent level you play with varies because of graduation. So one year you may run it more or may run it less. But if you have a basic offense, the total number of plays you have on a given year don't change a great deal. And the actual plays you run or the run-pass ratio won't change a great deal. Even if it does, because now all of a sudden you've got a quarterback that can throw, it'll stay within the structure of what you do. So there's your offense on the year. Now your job, whether it be first down, nickel, which we'll talk about here in a second, is to take, this represents your preparation for the week. You've decided that this is what the game plan looks like in the black. You're not going to use your entire offense every week. You're going to use a portion of the pass and the run. Suppose you're playing an opponent whose secondary is very vulnerable, or their front seven is a bitch and they don't run very well, or they stuff the run. Well, your game plan may look like that. Okay? It moves around within your total framework every week. Okay? That's what the game plan looks like this week. Or you've got a team that, you know, hey, we kick their ass every year, they can't stop the run. That's what the game plan looks like. A little bit of play action to go, and we can run it down their throat. Okay? Whatever it is, you can identify it. The key is to identify what you want to get done that week and practice it. Now comes the actual game. And for those of you, I hope this isn't too light, but you can see what we're getting at. Here's the offense. Here's what we practiced, and the game went true to form. 50-50 run pass. This is a winning profile. This means that you have a concise offense, you practiced what you thought you were going to need, and the game truly fell within the parameters that you thought it would. That's a winning profile. You win this game. Now, you get in, we have that profile where it's balanced, and you find, damn, we run this thing better than I thought. Well, that's what the game actually went like. You ran the ball much more than you thought you could, but if that's okay, if that's the case, you probably won, and you only used that portion of the offense for the given week. But that's okay. You stayed within it. There's going to be overage. If you go into a given, you've got, let's say 50 snaps. If I'm not mistaken, you're going to get between 40 and 50 snaps a game. So let's say you get 50 snaps. Well, you can't identify the exact 50 plays. If you can, you're a better man than I. Chances are you carry, and when I say 50 plays, obviously not 50 different plays, but you probably prepared for about, there's usually, we count on about 20 to 30% overage. 20 to 30% more plays than we're really going to need, because you don't know which aspect of it you're going to be. Now that may mean of those 50 plays, you only have 10 different plays, but you prepared with 15 or 16 different plays. You see what I'm saying? The overage is something you want to be conscious of. Now, occasionally this happens. You're getting your ass up and run. You thought you could, you didn't. You're using your pass offense, and not only are you using what you prepared, but you went outside and used some stuff you didn't prepare for the week. This happens. And if you prepare properly, there's a base part of your offense that you run enough that you can dip into if you didn't particularly prepare for it this week and still be effective. For us, that's scat double dodge, where we run three-way breaks by the tight end and the edge. I don't spend a lot of time practicing scat double dodge because we run it so much. Our guys know it between training camp and during the year. We don't have to practice it a bunch. So when I have to go out the structure of my week, it is usually in a play like that. Now, if you're going out and grabbing plays that are not really a base part, I mean, it is part of your offense, but it's not a part of that core offense, then obviously you can only expect the players to be so good at it. Don't be upset if you're throwing a post that you haven't thrown in 3 weeks and it's not successful. Yeah, maybe you had to try it, but don't get all over the players because they didn't execute it because you didn't prepare for it that week. But don't beat yourself up either and think, I should have had that in the game plan. You can't know. You can't know for sure. Now, we've all been in this game, too, where you're really getting your ass stuffed. You've gone outside and you're pulling stuff out of your asshole. Okay? Well, you do this. And if the cheerleader turn left, and we'll do this. Okay? If this happens to you a lot, you maybe need to go back and look at it, what you're planning. Coach Walsh and Denny Green have a saying related to plan your work and work your plan. Plan on what you need to do in the cool calm of the off during the week. Decide what it is that's going to work, and then stay with the plan. You get into this, you better go back and look at what you're planning. You better look at the way you're approaching your game plan. But you see what I'm getting at. This is all interactive. Now, this cannot be done, this important, what am I going to practice this week, haphazardly. You have got to identify what it is you run, how many snaps you take a week, and how you proportion those snaps. If you have 100, like the one schematic I showed you, if you have 140 snaps a week, and I'm talking about snaps against the defense, not versus air, against a live look, because that's the only way the players really learn. If that's 100, if it's 140, if it's 200, then again, I'm not here to advocate or tell you how you should run your practice. But whatever it is, identify it and proportion that practice the way you think necessary. I'm not here to tell you that 25% of your practice should be in the red zone. It should be whatever you think it has to be, but identify it. And if that is 25% and that means 30 snaps in a given situation, decide what you want out of those 30 snaps. How much is base and how much is overage. And I promise you, you're better preparing your athletes for what to expect, and they're much more focused. Too often coaches, I'm going to include myself here, you simply in the course of a practice run as many plays as you can get through, because that's a comfort zone for you that says, well, I covered it, so you can chew that kid's ass after the game. Well, we ran the trap and you blocked the wrong guy. Well, you ran the trap along with 50 other plays one time against as many different looks as you can get, just to say, we got 250 snaps in at practice. And if you didn't execute it, that's your fault. Take the 150 quality time snaps versus the 250 every time. Because now you're just covering your ass and telling your players that you prepared them, but you really didn't. You put your quarterback back in the end zone, back on the 1 yard line, trying to work yourself back up, and you throw a basic route combination down there. And his read says that he should work the curl to the flat, but you're backed up. And he throws it in because his read told him to go to the inside, but he didn't take into account that he was backed up, and you didn't cover it with him. You're going to jump his ass because he threw an interception, and you didn't cover it for him? Take the time to break down, via the numbers that we're talking about, how many times you're going to be in that situation, what do you expect, and what do you expect out of your players? And I guarantee you they will respond in kind. Now, let's take this concept and let's take it out into the nickel game, which is what we're here to talk about. First off, what did I say? Let's identify how much nickel we have. I tell people, nickel's the easiest situation I have. And they look at me like I'm nuts because of how much pressure is involved. The thing that makes it simple is it's so identifiable. The problem I have is when the area is so big, I can't discern a certain amount of focus. You are going to be, the first thing you got to recognize about nickel is, and this is how many average snaps are in the NFL the last 4 years. This is the average number of third downs teams were in the last 4 years. And you can see it's a very homogeneous group. By that I mean there's not a lot of variation. You're going to be in a third down snap between every fourth and fifth play on the average. Now we know that. That makes sense. Now as you look down here, the key to keep in mind is don't get all worked up about third down. You'll notice in our 4 determinants as to the highest probability of success, third down conversion wasn't in there. Because third down conversion only accounts for between 30 and 35% of your first downs. First down is where you ought to concern yourself on first downs, because that's where 65 to 75% of your first downs are going to come from. You get what I'm saying? The key to ball control is not just time of possession, defensive guys. It means real estate too. I can't just hold on to the ball. I got to hold on to the ball while I'm moving the chains, getting those first downs. I told you that we led the league, or number 2 in the league in the last 2 years, in total plays and generating first downs. 65 to 75% of our first downs came on first and second down. That's where your concern has to be. So don't get too worried about the third downs. It's important, don't get me wrong. Think of this, the average team converts in the NFL third down situation 39% of the time. Okay? That's average. Now, last year we were second in the league with 48% conversion. Last 2 years, nobody's converted more third down in the NFL than the Minnesota Vikings. So that means I'm at the top. I'm 48%. You're average. You're at 39%. Over the course of the game, what does that 10% represent? On 215 snaps a year, 1 third down convert. I'm converting 1 more third down a game than you are. 1. Now that's important, but it doesn't compare to the first downs that I'm getting on first and second down. Okay? So the first point is, and this convey this to your players, don't get all worried about third down. We're going to execute it. It's important, but it's not the end of the world if we don't convert a third down. Now, how did let's break this down even further. How do those third down? Now, again, these are my totals in the NFL. 218 snaps on 16 games. You've got to prorate it. Again, I would say on 50 snaps, on 10 games, you could take easily one off each of these characters. But that's for you to figure out. This is how we break down our third down situation. You can break it down whatever you want. You can clump. A lot of people will clump this together. But in the average, this is the NFL. In the average, based on the numbers we just saw, open field to red zone, these are the number of times on the year that you're going to be in that situation in the NFL. Okay, so we're kind of working and massaging this down to the point where we're getting some workable numbers here. Okay? And again, I'm not going to leave this up too much. Don't let those numbers affect you so much. Find out for yourself. That's where you're really going to believe it. Now, this is how our numbers turned out over the last 4 years with the Minnesota Vikings. And again, the thing I want to show you, the conversion rates will change depending upon how good you are. But the key to note is the consistency, for the most part, of the number of times we are in that situation. Now, these will juxtaposition themselves sometimes. Obviously, in 95, we increased our numbers of third and ones, so that was good. We decreased our numbers of third and 2 to 3, and increased it in the third and 4 to 6, so we had to convert more in this situation. Again, the numbers themselves aren't as important as the point that you're seeing. This is working down into identifiable numbers. I can identify how many times I'm going to be in that situation. And that situation for us, and then it comes down to scripting. You can't just have a play for the number of times you're going to be in it. You have to have that overage. So I usually script situation +1 in third down. You're going to be in a true third and 1. This always, I love this. Third and 1 in the open field. And you go back and you look at your game plans. And I did the same thing, so I'm not being overly critical here. And you go in and you've got 8 plays of third and 1. You are in third and 1, a true third and 1, in the open field once a game. Once a game. Overage means you need to have 2, maybe 3 plays in that situation. No more. Okay? For us, third and 2 to 3, I will carry 2. Third and 4 to 6, I will carry 3, maybe 4. Third and 7 plus, I will carry 5. And if I want to differentiate between that third and 10 and that occasional third and 15 with changing the depth of the route, I may do so. Okay? Now that's what I script for. Your numbers are going to be different. You could probably get away with that situation -1 unless you're talking about, you know, if I've got 10 plays in a situation and I cut back by 2, that's 20%. If I've got 2 times in a situation like third and 2 and 3 and I take 1 out, you're cutting out 50%. So even though you may only be third and 2 to 3 less than 1 time a game on the average on the year, you probably need to carry 2 plays. So I mean, you massage just the way you think you have to. But make sure that you're not putting more in there than you have to. You're not. Be as specific and as detailed as you can. I'll give you a term here. Just jumped out of me. My computer background is coming back out again. Bill Gates wrote a book called The Road Ahead. Pretty good book. Got the CD. You want to see where our technology is going? Buy that book with the CD-ROM. In that book, you have the CD-ROM. You can put it in your player. It has the complete text. You can highlight a word in the text, and it will expand on it and explain it. You can highlight another area, and Bill Gates will come up and talk about an aspect of it. Just the thing I was talking about. It exists now. That technology exists now. But in that book, he was talking about the use for computers. And the primary purpose has changed. Computers, it's a misnomer. Computers are not number crunchers anymore. They are for most people who use it that way. But for us, it should be called a communicator. It's not a computation machine, but it's a communicator. And he says the main purpose is to provide information. And he defined information, and this to me was really brilliant. Information is the reduction of uncertainty. Now think about that. What does information, how do you define information? It's not a compilation of facts. It applies specifically to your subject. It's the reduction of uncertainty. If you can reduce the uncertainty for you or your players, you are providing valued information. When you design your third down package in specific numbers and you tell them on 3rd and 2 to 3, we are going to do one of these two things, maybe both. And here's what it's designed to do, and here's what you do. You have reduced their uncertainty. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but you've reduced their uncertainty about what is expected of them, what the quarterback feels his expectations are, where he should go. You cannot deal with a quarterback in any down and distance, but let alone third down. And on 3rd and 4, you run a combination that puts a deep corner in a flat, and he goes to the flat and converts the first down, and the corner is open for a touchdown, and he comes off the field, and you say, God damn it, why didn't you hit the corner? Then the next time it comes open, he goes to the corner, it's not there, and the flat's open, and you're 3 and out. You can't do it. You have to prioritize. You have to tell him, this is what we want, and then take the pressure off him. Son, if you think that 7 route is there, and it might be, I think it might be, wait it out a sec and take your shot. And you take the heat. If he does so, it doesn't work, and now you don't convert on that 3rd down. But don't get all nervous. You'll pick it up on 1st and 2nd down. What did I say was the second highest variable to winning? Explosion. Take a shot of an explosion. If you aren't creating an explosion every 6th or 7th play, if it's not naturally happening with a guy breaking a tackle or a guy catches a fair pass and goes, if it's not happening at that rate, you better create it, because you're not going to go the distance on a consistent manner statistically and win the game. But give him the information he needs. Reduce his uncertainty about what's expected of him in that situation. 3rd down and long. Okay? If you were to compete, and again, in the last 2 years now, we've been in the top 3 in 3rd down conversion in the NFL. If you will convert at this ratio in these parameters, you will lead your or my or any other league in 3rd down efficiency. The one that tends to be surprising in that 3rd and short is 3rd and 1. In the National Football League, the average team converts a 3rd and short 80% of the time. I take that back. Yes, 80% of the time. Okay? Now, you would think 3rd and short, boy, that needs to be a 90, 100%. That's not the case. If you average 80%, you will lead the league. This year, we led the league in 3rd and 1 conversion. We led the league with 83% in the National Football League. So there again, reduce the uncertainty. Don't let your team feel like if they don't convert on a 3rd and 1, and they only did it 80% of the time during the year, that they're a failure. On 3rd and long, 7 or greater, that's our definition of 3rd and long. If you can convert 1 and 4, you are on par. 2 out of 5, you're ahead of the curve. So don't let your team come off that field feeling bad about themselves when it was 3rd and 10 because they didn't convert. Put it in terms to reduce their uncertainty that says, guys, give me just 1 out of 4. Give me 1 out of 4 3rd and longs, and we're there. The expectations and how they feel about themselves are equally as important. The obvious factor says, now we're back to the other probability measure, 4 yards on 1st down. Get yourself at minimum to that 3rd median. Get yourself in that 45 to 50% range where you've got reasonable expectations to convert and now increase your time of possession and an extra 1st down. Okay? Now, just so that you don't think I'm bullshitting, there's the number of 3rd downs converted. This is the entire year, this year, 1995. Again, just what we said. 218 on the average. The average is going to be 40%. Percentages are important to a degree, but I'm less concerned about percentages than my sheer numbers, because every one of those 1st downs means I get another 3 set of downs. We also led the league in 3 and outs, fewest 3 and outs, and in 10-play drives, with the focus of get me at 1st down on 1st and 2nd, and hopefully be semi-efficient on third down. Okay, now that we've identified that, let's talk about what we want out of the third and long, and I'll show you some examples of some of the things we do, keeping in mind the parameters that we've set. And again, the number of plays you're talking about. This is an excellent combination that we use in third and long, meaning 3rd and 7+. Now why? Why is this a good combination? Well, first, we have built in the potential for an explosion. That if we can suck that quarter, half safety up and get in behind him, or they're in some form of 3 deep and the safety comes up to take away this 4, and they want to make the mistake of giving you a big play on 3rd and long, you have the potential for it. If they want to stay in a loose 2 deep zone, and this guy hangs up in here and is not going to give you the post, you may pick up an alley at the catch being the first down with this 15-yard in. If they give you man for man, put a guy deep in the middle to take away this, someone's running with this guy, whether this is a curl or what we call a regular 5, which is like a little mini comeback, get to 15, plant, turn, and work back to the out of bounds with a deep outside throw, and you like your matchup on off man, you got something built in for it. The last option is the check out or the swing pass. And you've got to school your quarterback. Again, just give me 1 and 4, guys. If this is all you do and you throw it out to this M, give this guy a chance to catch the ball going downhill, facing a defender. He makes a good move, I got a first down. If he doesn't, hey, if it's 3rd and 7 and you get 6, there's some value in that. Keep that 1 and 4 ratio open. Now, this is just one example, but that type of thing. Now, I'm not saying you can go in and you got to be careful. Even, and I love coaches that, well, this read says he goes to the post. If not, he converts to a 7, jump to the inside route, check the end. If it's not there, go to the backside 5. You know, if I lay that out to Warren Moon, he's going to go, no, Brian, come here. We got to have a little discussion here. Warren Moon, when he came in, said something very interesting to me. We acquired him after 10 years with the Houston Oilers. And Warren Moon was in a position in his life, and his position in the NFL, that he could have very easily come in and said, look, this is the way I do things. You adapt. You adapt to me. It's not what he did. He says, Brian, I'm here to run you off. Tell me what you want. All I ask is you be specific. Tell me what you want. Reduce that uncertainty. You've got to help him with this route to say, look, I think, based on my analysis, that you got a chance to post here against this coverage. If it doesn't happen, hit this guy. I think this week you got a chance to hit this crosser. If it's not there, your 5's your next best chance. Identify for him. Don't say, do this, if not this, then go here, check down there. You kid yourself. You'll feel better about it, and you can go up and say, oh, son of a bitch didn't convert. He's not doing his job. What are you asking him to do? I'm an old tight end. I used to love the coaches to tell me, now we're going to power block. I want you to double secure the outside gap with the tackle. I want you to knock him off the tackle's block, get movement, scrape up to the second level, and get that line back. Right, coach. Gotcha. Yeah. Then do you want me to come over and drive you home and then wash your car and, you know, what else do you want me to do? It's not going to happen. You have to be realistic about what you're asking your players to do. Another combination just to show you that stack combination, but what have we done on the back side? We've added that hitch, that built-in hitch. I get any appreciable amount of 3 deep. Someone wants to play me man or 3 deep. I'll take my chances on 3rd and medium, even to a 3rd and long, up to about 7 to 10, on the hitch, catching and making a guy miss. So I'll build that built-in hitch that we saw off the quick game earlier, and I'll build it on top of that stack combination or whatever else you want with it. Again, I know I'm, as opposed to being specifically run this play and it'll work. I can't tell you. You don't have Warren Moon, you don't have Chris Carter. Okay? You've got to know, you know what you do in your 3rd down package. Double pump is a good one for us. Again, I'm just throwing these up and I'll be happy to expand on them. Obviously 4 verticals on the outside. If it's 3 deep, he goes down the hash. He goes down the numbers for you, probably just outside your hash. breaks to the inside. Again, very definitive aiming points. Don't be afraid to hit the check down. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time with these. I'm going to throw out a number of different combinations. Very similar. You have something in that. Most everybody runs it. Variation to it, we run a lot of double pump, and we'll break that off. There again, variations on a theme. Let this guy pump down the numbers. No break off, or no change of route. He simply stays to the top of the numbers. There again, just outside your hash. He runs the regular 5, break that off to an inside 4 route or backside in. Again, they get loose, you go vertical, then you break it off. All of a sudden, there's that window on the backside. There again, these are just combinations that have been good for us. Third and medium. And again, we led the league in third and medium as well. And breaking it down even further, a basic high-low combination, what we call our dig package, is very successful. There again, I'll show you on the film for those that after the session want to look at it. Again, this ends up being like a hitch. It's real brilliant coaching. We call it the no-brainer rule. If no one's there, stay there. If someone's there, leave. Okay, we'll put a 7 over the top. If he'll let you sit there at the 6-yard depth, this corner loses ground because he wants to take this away, and the backer isn't going to buzz to you, just lay it to him on the outside there. If the corner stays put or the backer over buzz to you, turn and run away inside at the first down depth and give you a nice, easy, quick throw. From a number of different formations, I just have it up out of this. Another good one for us. We, in our what we call our bunch look, we explode. Someone was talking about, we do a lot of shifting and multiple shifts and motions. We start in this bunch look. This can be 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 wides, and from here we will stem and pop the receivers out into a formation that most of us are in a great deal. Flanker, tight end, slot, and wide receiver. We will hide that double alignment by starting in bunch, and on a go snap count, we don't want to let them get there and look at the bunch and go, okay, they're going to explode out of it. Let's let them shift out into what they're doing. We'll hit them on a go snap count, quick flat, a 7. These guys crossing. This is what we call SCAD 067. Again, with a crosser for good man. Many times this guy will pop open in the back. That, or they'll totally overplay this, and this is a nice mismatch here, your R on your H on the back side. Okay. Third and 2 to 3. Very popular combination. There again, not a lot new. You can formation the hell out of this thing. You can see what we're doing, and again, I'm positive you have some aspect of it. We have our basic flat concept. And this is the way we teach our route progression, so that we can be multiple. We clump our routes into categories as horizontal stretch routes, vertical stretch routes, pick routes, isolation routes, and we teach them in progression. This is part of our flat sequence up here. So if you tell the receivers this is a flat combination, they know someone's vertical on a 7, someone's picking and pivoting out, and someone's to a flat. Now, in theory, I could put whatever formational grouping I want together, and if I tell them this is a flat combination, then they can immediately, just by where they're lined out, figure, oh, well, okay, I probably have the 7, and he has the pick flat, or pivot in and out, and I've got the flat. And the quarterback knows right now, no matter what formational group I give him, oh, this is a deep intermediate flat read, or this carries a certain reads with it. Weak side version of it, strong side version of it. And we'll move and get into these formations a number of different ways. And we will use this combination probably 15 different times in third down, at least once a game, in one form or another, formationally, because the players are confident in it. They have a high degree of certainty of what they're supposed to do here, and we're going to take a recurring theme and spread it out over different formations. The variation to it is our Chevy and Ford combinations that take that same grouping that allow for that flat, and we'll send 2 verticals and go 3-way breaks off of it. So what I'm getting at is you're seeing a carryover of constant plays, varied by formation, with 1 or 2 variations of it. Okay? Now, let's identify this. Some numbers for you. In the third down, how do you practice it? And I'll tell you what it is for us. In fact, I think I didn't intend to cover this necessarily, but the discussion always gets to it, so I'll include it. The third and medium offense for us is going to happen about 70 times a year. That aspect of that percentage of my 218 third down snaps in the open field, about 70 of them are going to be in that third and medium, third and 2 to 3, third and 4 to 6 range. Okay? Now, how do I come up with those 70? For you, for conversation purposes, let's say that number is 40. I don't know that, but based on your snaps, let's say that's it. Why would you not approach it as a unit? Why would you not say, you say, what's my third down package? Well, I'm going to work on my third down package. The easiest way, go back to what you did last year on the computer that you're all going to go back and do now, right? You're going to put your whole season on it. This is exactly what I do, man. I take that 1,000 plays I had, I sort it by down and distance. And all the third and 2 to 3s and all the 4 to 6s are clumped right there. I pull that out and I sort it by play. And I looked at what worked and I looked at what didn't work. And I'll tell you what didn't work and decide if it was a physical inequity on our part or bad play calling on my part. I'll look at the other teams that do well in third down. If there's a combination, not a single play, but a combination that looks pretty good that we don't run, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to throw out the sections that aren't working. I'm going to shove that in there. I'm going to look at the plays I run by personnel groupings and by formation. I will add or delete a couple. I have that same 70 plays, and I shove it back in, and that's my nickel offense for next year. That sounds awful simplistic, but I have my 70 plays. And then I put the charge to my coaches during the week, those that are in charge of the nickel game, because everybody has their own particular things. I can't do it all, and you're mistaken if you think you can. Use your assistants. Use the talents that you have. Even if it's just charting tendencies, use your assistants. And I put it to them. They look at the nickel. Well, I'm starting with the base. They come in and they recommend a nickel package. And the thing I put to them is, in the off season, this has worked, man. We're best in the NFL. Here's the 70 plays we ran. We spent an entire off season deciding what was good, what wasn't, throwing out that what wasn't good, try another one. Practice it during training camp. Now we're going to come in, and in a very short period of time, I got to get ready for a team. Tell me why we shouldn't use one of these 70 plays. Tell me what you've seen on film that we don't have anything like it, that we ought to create a new play. And that does happen. Otherwise, let's not spend 3 hours talking about a situation we've already covered, pull it out of our catalog, and let's run it. Because this is what has worked. And the same would be true of your situation. Very identifiable. We'll take that as far as training camp. Training camp for us, and it's cut down, this is how we lay out training camp. I script every play of training camp in the off season. Every play of training camp is scripted in the off season. Having been with Denny for a number of years, the same way with you, you go to training camp, you pull out your scripts. If it's 20 practices before your first game like in college, if it's 15, whatever, for us in pro, it's about the same. We get between 20 and 23 practices leading up to our first preseason game. Now, granted, we have 4 preseason games, so our approach could be a little bit different. But in college, what is it? 20 practices prior to the week before your first game. You're going to get the same number of practices. I know what our practices look like. You can. You go back from year to year, there's not going to be a lot of change. You practice base, you practice nickel, you scrimmage a certain amount. You did the same thing the same way before. Identify what it is, see what your total snaps are, and break them down the way you want. Third and medium. In this 15 period, now this goes into a scrimmage and whatever, but here's the point I'm getting at. Third medium, 64 snaps. Okay, what did I tell you, 70, 80? So I'm going to get 64 snaps in training camp. Why would I not take that part of the offense that I've spent the entire offseason looking at, analyzing, saying this is what we're going to do, practice it, play for play, every snap, one time at least in training camp. And again, there may be the same play run 10 different ways. That flat combination that I said would be run at least once a game, that's 15 of my 70 snaps. 15 different formations. but 15. I'm going to work the combinations. I'm going to get virtually an entire season's worth of third medium in my training camp. Now the players have practiced the whole season ahead of us. Now, from there, there's that degree of uncertainty has shrunk. They've run this before. They know what that combination is. And you can play it out all the way during training camps. Okay, now we've covered some routes. We've covered the amount that we're going into. The next question that's most asked of me in this situation, and again, I'm covering a lot of ground here, and again, you can see I'm staying away from trying to tell you, I don't know if that flat combination is going to work for you. Try it if you like it. You can get some film and look at it. It may or may not be something that you like, and I'm certainly happy to suggest things. That's a good combination, but I can't tell you that's going to work for you. I'd rather tell you the way I approach it, and the degree of success we had is because we've identified what it is we're going to do, and the players know what that is. That takes more effort than I'm making out right now, but I guarantee you it will have benefits for you. The time, cost, benefit ratio will shoot up tenfold if you'll take the time to do that rather than go listen to some pro or college coach about what offense you ought to run or how you ought to run a particular route. Start with what you do. Identify that first. Now, the other thing in the nickel situation that I get most asked about is how do you handle blitz? How do you handle the blitz? What's your philosophy to it? Last year, and again, I hope I'm not coming across in a self-serving manner trying to say, gee, aren't I brilliant? But I'm trying to validate that there's some things to this. We led the league last year in blitz situation pickups. Now, what the league does, by way of measuring it, because we all want to be able to measure something, is we took the way they had ranked quarterback rankings. And it's a relationship of completions versus attempts versus touchdowns versus interceptions versus sacks. And the equation comes out to give you a ranking. And based on that ranking, on the blitz situation, the blitz was 6 or more, not 5. 6 or more constituted a blitz. 5 was nothing more than a stun or a dog. We had a success rate, we had a rating of 108, which you can see led the NFL last year. The average ranking was about 77. Last year we were 4th in the NFL in picking up the blitz. Now again, I'm not trying to minimize the fact that we've got some players and a quarterback that are very good at it. But one of the things that we do, and I'm going to give you a protection. Again, protections being the key, in my opinion, so often, to success. We talked about the 3-step protection. This is a protection scheme that I think is worth considering on your part, or something like it. We call flash and lightning. It is a 8-man protection scheme that checks to 6 in a heartbeat. The problem you have with 8-man protection schemes, particularly in nickel, and particularly at your level, one, we've talked a great deal about time allotments in practice. Everybody, and I always had, a very specific, identifiable, separate 8-man blitz pickup scheme. Well, how do you get it practiced? Well, it's either a 2-back, split-back base rule, and you bastardize the rules for the tight end to pick up the 8th man, or you have a offset, fullback, weak flow, 7-man protection rule that now the H has to bastardize. Where do I find? You have to practice it for something that maybe may come up twice a game, if that, if you can get to it. And then the question is, well, formationally, do I really want to spread out here? Because if they give me an 8-man pressure, I got to bring everybody back in. I got to get my pimple-faced 15-year-old quarterback to audible into the right situation. It's a problem, but everybody has an 8-man scheme. And this was Joe Gibbs' system that to me was brilliant in its conception. And the key is not so much in the actual scheme, and I'll talk a little bit about some key points with it here, but more so the fact of when we use it. We throw flash and lightning about 60 times to 80 times a year. We're going to throw it about 3 times a game. Anytime I have an individual route to a wide receiver, if we're just going to run an individual route to X, what we call our individual, an out, cut through, 12-yard out, or a post with a M in behind it, or just a curl, whatever, I'll do it to a degree out of flash and lightning, and I'll build that hitch in on the backside. And the reason I'll do it is if I know I'm going to work that individual cut, and I got a built-in X, why not do it with a maximum protection scheme? Why not protect the quarterback? Plus, along the way, I am practicing an 8-man scheme on a consistent manner that when we really do need it, the players know it. We have blitz pickup every week, 2 periods, 10 minutes during the week. But none of it is safety blitz. What's our 8-man protection scheme? It's what it should be. More times than not, where's the hot receiver? Where's the break off? Oh, by the way, if they bring an 8-man dog, flash and lightning picks it up. It's a natural part of the play. It's not a separate entity, is what I'm getting at. And by practicing that way, the players have a lot of confidence in it. Now, the reason I say it goes 8 down to 6 immediately, there's 2 aspects of it. And again, I'll leave it up here for you to draw the schematics, and I'll be happy to spend more time with it if you'd like. All it is, exclusive of the extra 8th man, it's just a 7-man base rule. If you look at it, it's just big on big blocking, fullback weak, tight end stays in and block. You all have some form of weak flow, 7-man protection scheme. The 8th man is there for the 8th blitzer. Now there's some unique rules to it that you can't violate. First is the H's rule, you don't care what the defense is. You see what the tight end does. As long as the tight end doesn't disappear, you get to block anything offside the edge that comes. The value for us is I can do this with a wide receiver. He doesn't care what the front is. I can get into that double formation, motion the H along to the hip of the tight end, use an 8-man protection scheme with Chris Carter, and all he knows is as long as that tight end doesn't disappear, I'm free to release. 9 times out of 10, Chris comes in, tight end stays base, he's gone, and he's part of the route progression. So he's affecting the route. He's gone right now. The R has number 4 weak. If there is no number 4, or 4 doesn't come, he's gone now. And 9 times out of 10, the H and the R are gone almost instantly. Because they can recognize, again, in a basic front, it would take the will. On 4 people weak, where's my nickel? If that nickel doesn't exist, I'm gone. Uncovered center goes weak, period. Uncovered center goes weak. So that means I've got center, guard, and tackle to handle 3 weak. R's got 4. Now the only way you can do that is with the swoop principle. And this is the one you have to take note of. Okay, because this is something that's a little bit different. The only way you can handle your center goes weak and still handle 4 people strong, and let me expand on it a little bit here, is do what we call swoop. If you're a nickel, and these are nickel guys out here screwing around, you can see my center's going to go weak, my R gets to go right now. These guys will 3-way, like they do on any base 7-man protection scheme week. Tight end and tackles do it all the time. And you've got your H to block off the tight end to handle anything out into here. So you got it covered. There again, Chris Carter comes in, nothing outside. He doesn't care what the front is. He sees on the snap of the ball, the tight end stayed base. This guy didn't come, I'm free. R looks up, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is out here in the O zone, I'm gone. The problem, and it doesn't come up much, the problem is when they want to stack in a 4-man side in a packed-in 7 or 8-man front. Now what do? The center goes weak. I said uncovered. Period. You can't violate that rule. R is out of there. Well, I got 3 people. I got 4 people, but they're all packed in here. And I said my H didn't have to account for a front. All he's looking for is the tight end. I'm not making him look. Did the guy come from here? Did the safety sneak up? We have what we call on the sheet swoop. Anytime there's a packed in 4-man side, that's not going to work. A packed in 4-man side, such as you see at the top, we swoop, and that says you 2 are responsible for the immediate A and B gap threats, the first 2 that can violate that. That means this tight end has to come in and block that end over the tackle. That's what I'm talking about. The receiver comes in, and if that tight end's ass disappears, I got to be in a position to seal off his ass and take the first thing that shows. Now, I know exactly what you're saying. You're saying, Coach, you're asking my tight end to come in and cut off a head-up or outside technique on a tackle, and you want Chris Carter to block Cornelius Bennett? How long you been coaching? Okay? The fact of the matter is, A, this doesn't come up that often. You don't want to be swoop happy. No, I don't want this to happen. But for the 1 out of 80 times that it does, it's covered. It handles it. And what happens is, that tight end, you talk about PAT, gap protection, he hears swoop, he is coming down off the hip of that tackle, and all he cares about is there's nothing comes outside the hip of the tackle. The tight end, and we'll do this with a tight end in his back as well, he gets to the hip of that tight end and hangs on for as long as you can. And for the amount of times that it actually comes up, you can live with it. Because it doesn't come up that much. Now, if you happen to have, and you're uncomfortable with the wide receiver doing it, you can do this from depth. If you're a split back team, this becomes your split back 8-man protection rule. Weak, out, 3-way, from depth, look inside out, off the tight end's ass. And now if that's a tight end or a fullback, now if that gets packed in, you're a little less concerned, obviously, about that guy taking that on. He's not doing anything he doesn't have to do anyway, because what are defenses doing? They're covering your guards, they're covering your tackles, and bringing the biggest son of a bitch they can off the outside and make your little back have to block him in blitz pickup, and occasionally he's got to hold up. But if you, and the reason I bring this up is because people in nickel are constantly telling me, you know, first off, it's very vogue to get 4 wideouts in third down. That's fine in the NFL if you want to do that, but don't complain about the sacks. Don't complain about your quarterback getting beat out. You give NFL ends a short edge to the quarterback with no tight end presence. I don't want to hear about rules, and this is an offensive guy talking. I don't want to hear about rules about protecting the quarterback. Okay? We usually have a tight end in there. And the reason people only blitz us and only get away with it is because, as I said, we stem the tight end, and even with 3 wides, we can get into a formation that says, go ahead and blitz me. And where are you going to bring that blitz? You're going to bring it off the weak side. But the weak side maybe isn't the weak side. Maybe it starts out being the weak side, but I've stemmed the tight end. Now you got a tight end and tackle, and I'm bringing an extra chipper in that's going to account for it. And if he doesn't, he's going to chip on that big guy you're bringing off the end, that Reggie White or Cornelius Bennett. Not only is a tight end there, but he's got Chris Carter boning him in the ear hole to hold him off. So now you've brought what you think is one more man than I can handle, and not only can I handle him, but he's got extra help, and you're playing man defense with Chris Carter and Jake Reed and Ant Lee. And we're running all over the field. So people are very nervous about blitzing us in third down, in part because of this protection. And it's not something extra we have to do. It's just a normal part of what we do. This is what I'm talking about. This protection aside, this is what I'm talking about, identifying the parameters of your situation, how you're going to attack it, and how you can best teach it to reduce the uncertainty of your players. And when you break it down on a yearly basis, we said, what, third medium, let's say is 40 snaps for you. I guarantee you, if you want to sit down with your coaches for the next couple of weeks and identify what those 40 snaps are and what it is you intend to get done, approach it that way in training camp. Now come game week, it's a piece of cake. First, you've known the third down isn't life-threatening. I'll pick it up on first and second down. You've educated your team as to what's acceptable on third down and what will get it done so they can feel very good about themselves and not panic because they don't convert every third down. And now you've got the entire package that you've worked on all year long in your PE, 7th period PE programs or whatever, and identify it as such. Guys, this week in 7th period, we're going to work our 40 plays of third medium that we're going to run again in training camp, and we're going to run them, and we'll break it down during game week, but I promise you there's going to be carry. Oh yeah, I know that. I know what I do on this. So that when that unique situation comes up, Now you've got it blocked. Okay? All right, guys, I appreciate the time and you being here. I think they're going to bring everybody back together for a second to do some administrative things. Those that want to go through the tape that I've got here that shows some of the things we talked about, I'll be happy to sit here and go through it with you and answer any questions you have.